Let's welcome in our panel to discuss this. Republican strategist Aaron Perrine's with us. Patrice Lee Onwuka, the director of the Center for Economic Opportunity at the Independent Women's Forum, is back with us as well, and so is retired NFL player and entrepreneur Jack Brewer. Patrice, want to start with you on this one. Is Disney selling out its core group? I mean, kids from the heartland of America, to appeal to a whole new demographic here. This seems like quite a shift in their business model.
Well, John, good to see you and everybody today. I think they're digging deeper into this ideology and trying, to really think that they can push these ideas down to young people. I was just looking at this backpack thinking, I remember when the rainbow represented the promise that God made to us that he wouldn't destroy the earth by water again. Now it's been co-opted for a totally different reason. And Disney will see the backlash. And I think it's interesting when we see other companies that are now pulling back on this gender ideology and this idea of trying to make these children more woke when it comes to gender questioning. They're going to feel a backlash. And it wouldn't surprise me if this is the last time we see these backpacks used for this purpose.
Aaron, are you okay with Disney appealing to kids with this stuff?
I can see this a little bit of both ways, only because there are probably children whose parents are Disney fans. They're Disney fans as well, and their parents might be gay. So for that portion, absolutely. But this does speak to the larger issue that we are seeing with corporations, and certainly with Disney, especially on the Don't Say Gay bill, where they are pushing indoctrination and falsehoods about what should be taught to children, what is taught to children, and what we should be speaking to children about. Children at these young ages shouldn't be having conversations about sexualization, about sexual identity. I don't understand why corporations and the Democrats seem so hell-bent on teaching children about sex when they are younger and younger and younger, instead of teaching them things like writing and math and skills that they will need to go on into middle school and high school. We shouldn't get distracted by this. They will continue to try to do this, but we need to stay laser focused on making sure we protect children going into the future and prevent indoctrination.
Jack, when you have some of the kids you work with at an event with Governor Ron DeSantis, you get slammed, you get accused of using the kids as props or a ploy you're really just trying to support kids and dads and families. But there's no backlash really from most of the establishment press on this, or not even any curiosity about what they're actually doing.
Yeah, it's such a great point, John. To see these two worlds collide and you can literally get slammed like myself just for standing up for not wanting kids to be considered oppressed and oppressors, and wanting quality education for every kid, and kids that get D's and F's to be uplifted by the educational system. I'm blasted for that. But now you can indoctrinate the kids. You're talking about the largest media organization in the world that targets children is now pushing LGBTQ and anti-Christ agenda. It really is a sad thing when you start to see it. But you think about ESPN too. I mean, Disney owns 80% of ESPN, and so their power and their ability to go in the mainstream media goes beyond, I think, what many people realize. And I think this is just the beginning. This is a spiritual battle that we're going to face. I'm totally against it, as you already know. But for me, it's disheartening. It's a sad day.
But, to echo what Patrice was talking about, we do start to see some companies moving the other way, Netflix being one of them. A Variety reporting that Netflix has pulled the plug on several animated projects, including one called Wings on Fire. It was based on the book Anti-Racist Baby, written by Ibram X. Kendi, How to Be an Anti-Racist, the author of that book. And also another one called Kind Regards from Kindergarten, which is a story of a darker children's book about two young friends who drift as one of them loses his imagination. Sources at Netflix told Variety that decisions not to move forward with these projects were creative rather than cost-related, whatever that means. Patrice.
Well, I would have to think that they have data. They have data on how some of these programs are already performing on their streaming service, and I suspect that other types of content actually would do much better. That traditional kids programming that doesn't inject these ideologies into these young minds probably do a lot better. Things like Bubble Guppies and Paw Patrol that teach us how to appreciate police and law enforcement probably do a lot better than this type of content would ever do. And so they're probably recognizing that and making a decision to say, we will choose the Dave Chappelle's, we will choose the Paw Patrols over some of this other ridiculous content. And it's a good step, and I hope they don't backtrack.
Do you believe, Aaron, that this is a creative decision rather than a cost decision? Because I think what Patrice is talking about is probably true. They see the data on this, and it's probably more a business decision than anything else.
Oh, I completely agree that this is much more likely a business decision with their content and their dollars. We know Netflix is kind of tanking right now. They're losing subscribers. They're losing market share. And so they're trying to find ways to revamp and bring more people on board. And the attempt to indoctrinate children with things about being an anti-racist baby is certainly not going to bring more masses to Netflix. This is purely a business decision by them. And I would actually be very hard pressed to find a racist baby. It just shows how out of touch they really are with what families are looking for content-wise, which is why you see their business doing so poorly.
Right. Racism, hatred is a learned thing, and so often, especially, if you read How to Be an Anti-Racist, it's baked into that book, even though the title would say otherwise. Jack, one more thing we want to talk about here is Black Lives Matter co-founder Patrisse Cullors is blaming some of her issues right now with money on something she calls white guilt money. She talked to MSNBC in a podcast over there called Into America's podcast, and it was a major shock when BLM raised that $90 million after George Floyd's death, and that was a lot of white guilt money, she said. There's a lot of white folks being like, we just got to put the money out there. This woman is so obsessed with race and dividing us about our race. It's kind of amazing to me that it took this long to expose her.
You're right. At what point? And you remember, even the families of some of these folks that have lost their lives, that this woman has gone out and raised money off of their slaying. She has not given them anything. They have called for her. They've been screaming loud. And it just shows you what the liberal media is made of. Whenever you have the very victims in which are being used as props, and their stories being promoted to raise funds, and this lady doesn't even do anything for them. And you see it every day. It's no different than what's going on right now. This past weekend, you had almost 100 people shot in the streets, inner cities across America, but you hear nothing from these folks. It's the same thing. They raise money off of going in and trying to push and promote an oppressor versus the oppressed mentality. And it's something that they figured out. They're paying their family members hundreds of thousands of dollars from these monies that they're raising. Something must be done. At some point, when is there a real investigation that's going to come in to stop this from happening in the future? It's just, we have too many underserved kids particularly the black community, that are getting locked up every day. Fatherless kids that can't read and write at their proficiency levels. And nothing's being done for that. But organizations like this aren't held accountable. At some point, our government needs to do their job and get back to enforcing law and order and holding folks accountable in this nation who are using the most vulnerable to enrich themselves.
Yeah, where's the evidence that Black Lives Matter has benefited any of these black communities at all? And obviously, many times it's to the contrary of that. Great to see our panel. We'll have everyone back in the next hour. Aaron, Patrisse, and Jack, thanks, guys. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.